Welcome back everyone dito sa latest episode ng Deep Dive. Gayahin natin ng konti ang kabilang channel. Ako po si Richard Hidarian, isa lang hampas lupa na vlogger. Dahil nakadamit ako ng merch natin. At kasama natin isa sa mga luminaries natin, the legal luminary natin, Justice Carpio. Thank you, Justice, for parang nag-terno-terno yung colors natin, Justice. Thank you for making time.
Thank you, Richard, and good evening to our viewers.
As always, it's a pleasure having you, Justice. Obviously, we are having you here as our pre-SONA analysis kasi SONA na next week, Monday. I know you have an event also with a couple of our good friends, Progressive. Hindi ko alam ba't wala si Kiko at Bamsa. So, ayan na naman tayo. Sa poster, baka na-point out ng mga tao. And obviously, Justice BBM is now with our favorite president in the world, Trump. Donald Trump, right? Big and beautiful friends. So pag-usapan natin 'yan. But before that, Justice, I know this is ano lang kanina lang to. Just to be clear, the facts of the case are yet to be established. So hindi tayo katulad ng si Sir Ronald na medyo libelous. Pero kanina there was a news item, dalawang version eh. Yung isang version is Politico, nakalagay siksik sa ham and cheese. Escudero allegedly inserts 142 billion pesos in 2025 budget to benefit DAW allies. Obviously, we're talking about this is a report. So, di umano, Senate President Escudero wielded his budgetary influence to insert supposedly a staggering 140 billion pesos into the proposed 6.3 trillion 2025 budget. So, meron din version sa Bilyonaryo ang title CHIZ Senate Allies Behind 142 billion insertions in 2012 national budget. Again, isa po itong report, but we know that of course Senator Lacson returns to the Senate. He's also focusing on concerns with mga pork barrel or mga secret versions ng pork barrel. Justice, again, with the caveat that we have to establish, because may lumalabas pa lang ngayon yung mga numbers and all dun sa bicameral committee hearing. What should we push for, Justice? Should there be a kind of an open bicameral discussions para alam natin nangyari? Do you think there should be more transparency doon sa mga numbers doon sa bicameral committee? And if di umano, totoo itong mga concerns about insertions, what should the civil society do, Justice?
Well, I think we should scrutinize the particular items dahil sabi doon sa press news report, one road, they chopped it into several segments, A, B, C, D, and there could be an overlap. And there were no studies that were cited. So I think civil society groups can take a look at these items because these items are in the budget of the executive branch that's under the president. So first of all, the president has control over the release of these funds. But of course, he can use these funds only for that purpose if he plans to release it. But I think civil society should develop a mechanism to study all of these insertions. Because remember, before the Congress put there a provision that the funds will be released upon recommendation of the district member of the House or or of the Senate member of the Senate. But the Supreme Court struck that down that the legislature, Congress has no participation in the implementation of the budget. So it's all up to the president now. So what they're doing now is what the congressmen are doing now is putting it in line items. Like they will put, okay, this road, but they divide it into sections like A, B, C, D, but it's the same road. 100 million for section A, 100 million for section B, 100. So I think we have to develop the civil society as groups have to develop their expertise in scrutinizing these line items because this is now a line item. It's not a lump sum, no? So
Yeah, exactly.
they're trying to, the Congress is getting smarter now. So we have to examine now whether these funds, the funds for section A, B, C, D are actually the same funds for the same road, no? So whether there is an overlap or not. So, and what are the studies behind this? I mean, did they just invent this? There are no supporting studies for that road. Or maybe the road is already cemented. They just want to do a reblocking. You know, the trend now is to reblock it. You
Ayan
destroy
na
the
naman
road
tayo.
and pave it again.
Yung aspalte ginawa pang semento, 'di ba? Pumangit pa lalo, 'di ba? No, I mean, just as again for the it looks like some people hindi sila updated. So basically ang reportedly meron bycam pero meron din daw small bycam. So yung official bycam si Grace po yung kasi siya yung head of Senate Finance Committee in the 19th Congress. She's supposed to represent the Senate. Pero meron daw small bycam, more informal one kung saan yung Senate President daw mismo I directly try to negotiate and insert funds of up to 140 billion DAW allegedly. And eto pa, so we're looking at a lot of infrastructure projects. Among the 10 areas that benefited, one is yung home province daw niya ng Sorsogon, allegedly getting 9.1 billion pesos in infrastructure projects. Then Mindoro, 8 billion, Batangas, 7 billion, Davao, Justice Carpio, hello, 7
Yes.
billion, Misamis Occidental, 6 billion, Quezon Province, 5.9 billion, Cavite 5.6, Valenzuela 4.2, and this looks very detailed, no? There's actually, I think Sir Ronald Llamas has a much more detailed breakdown of this. So as we try to digest this pa, etong supposed expose, that's why I just felt that we have to discuss. So what you're saying, Justice, parang nangyari dito yung parang sa bungan, yung parang dati gambling, ngayon gaming ng tawag, ganun ba yan? Nag-evolve yung yung branding.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sophisticated way of getting a pork barrel now. They've legally, they are not. There is no participation by the members of the House or the Senate, but uh, I think what they are doing now is uh, over allocating for a certain project. That could be the situation now. So we have to study how they do it. We have to learn their uh, how come they divided the road into three or four sections. So the civil society has to study this.
Para pala silang mga vloggers no yung sinaslice yung segment para sampo yung content sa isang clip. Katulad ng ginagawa ko sa atin, Justice. Yung mga Paris talks pa natin, lalabas ba? Hindi. But uh, going back to this, Justice, saan papasok yung ruling nyo sa Supreme Court dun sa disbursement acceleration program? I mean, is it relevant in any sense to this?
Well, because they were rather blatant or brazen at the time. They put there that this will be disbursed upon recommendation of the district congressman. So that one was struck down because Congress does not implement, it does not execute the budget. It just appropriates it, and it's up to the executive branch to implement it. So that's why. But now they are actually appropriating per line item uh, amount, let's say 100 million, section A of the road. So it's not a lump sum anymore, but there is a section B, the same amount for the same road. There might be an overlap somewhere. So we don't know why this is being chop. So we have to study this. Why are they doing this?
Magaling yung research and development department ng ating mga like nag-evolve. So kung dati pork barrel na medyo babuyan, ngayon medyo politically correct, PC version na to mga pork barrel na to, ganun ba yung Justice? Now, speaking of what you're saying that kailangan pag-aralan ito ng civil society, ibig sabihin niyan, Justice, meron ba dapat mga bagong mekanismo, bagong mga metodolohiya, or I mean, I don't know, gumamit tayo ng AI for instance to go through all of the data to kind of mine out yung mga key points kasi I think some of our friends si J Mark, our good friend in journalism, nag-develop siya ng parang app where you can use an AI to go through a very complicated thousands of pages para you can come out with parang overall understanding of ano mga key points. What is your understanding, Justice, in terms of the new mechanisms that we have to develop for transparency?
Well, I think we have to have people on the ground to look at the particular road. Ano ba ito? Is this a new road or is this reblocking? Is because the trend now, the fashion now is to reblock it. The road is still good, but they destroy it. They call it reblocking, and they put a new road. So that's why there are no more new roads. Actually, it's just the old roads being reblocked.
We're just getting different variations on the same thing. Wala.
So we have to keep up with the practices now.
Kaya nga parang sabungan to, di ba? Dati gambling, ngayon gaming, das e-gaming, tapos ano. So nag-evolve din ng game, may ibang klase. Ang hirap talaga maging responsible citizen talaga. Ang dami mong kailangan gawin. Justice on that. Now, obviously, Justice, to be fair, no, some are also saying parang the timing is a bit suspect. Is this a way to delegitimize cheese? Syempre, masasaktan din yung ibang kasama natin kasi ibang kasama natin, dinidefend nila yung mga senador nila na biglang nasa major. Isn't it weird na Amy Marcos is now in minority and like, na obviously alam natin because Amy wanted to be president herself, kaya siguro bitter lang yun. But isn't it weird, Justice, na nasa Team Cheese na lahat at biglang meron itong report na si Cheese ay medyo marami daw ham and cheese na na-slice. Allegedly, di
Mm.
umano, again. Baka naman politically motivated yan. Baka fake news, not true.
Mhm.
Anong tingin niyo sa political timing, Justice, as we enter the, medyo, crunch time na sa impeachment eh.
Yeah. Well, I think we just have to study what they're actually doing now because panibago ito eh, no? We are faced with a new practice. So we don't know what are the tricks being used now. So pag-aralan natin ito.
Parang mutation na, parang COVID, no? May bagong, ano naman, may
Yeah.
bagong. Um, Now, the reason why actually infrastructure came up dun sa discussion namin kanina with sila Sir Ronald, yung mga colleague ko sa One News TV5 is yung issue ng, syempre, nababaha ngayon. And by the way, our prayers and love dun sa mga followers natin, kaibigan natin, kababayan natin na apektado ngayon dito sa grabe, malala na itong. But parang ang bilis mag-flood ngayon, Justice, which just raises the issue like, kamusta yung mga billions of dollars na ginastos natin, hindi lang pesos, dito sa mga flood control projects over the past decade. I think again, the Senator Lacson is positioning himself as kind of an auditor on this issue. Just should we have a specific mechanism? Kasi ito yung pinaka-notorious, no? Hindi yung kalsada na paulit-ulit na ginagawa at sineslice. Mas malala pa yung hindi mo nakikita sa ilalim na supposedly flood control na obviously hindi gumagana kasi nababaha ka agad, konting ulan lang.
Yeah, if you look at the 2024 budget, there are most of the districts, congressional districts, have an item for flood control. So, but the flood is getting worse. So, uh, I think the people will have to to take a look in their district. What is the budget for the district for flood control, and whether that was spent on the actual flood control, no? Because the floods are getting worse now.
So, bantay flood control, ganun ba? Hindi lang
Mhm.
bantay sa flood, bantay flood control din. Pero di ba sa ilalim yan, just ano, kailangan mo ng drone, ano bang gagawin natin dyan? Di ba, you were talking about new innovations, like, paano natin bantayan? Ang mahirap makita, na magdala tayo ng tao doon sa baba, ganun ba yan? Literally, pababa.
Well, because the flood control project has a specific site. Where did they put the dam or the canal or whatever? So we can use a drone to go over it. Di ba na in one case they found out where the 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 dam was the the dam was washed away by the flood, and it turns out there are no steel bars, no steel bars to hold. So we just have to be to examine the flood control projects. The people will have to be very vigilant now.
Yeah, I mean, this is a life and death situation. As of kanina, 5 p.m. lang nung nag-usap kami. I don't know about now. It could have been worse, God forbid. May mga missing na sa Quezon City, sa mga malalaking syudad. I mean, this is a life or death issue, right? If you don't control flood, people will die. Hindi lang damage sa properties and economy, di ba? Just so, this is a serious, could there be a criminal liability dun sa mga nag-corrupt sa flood control or anomalous activities?
Yeah, for example, those uh, those dams that they built that turned out to be without any steel bars. Uh, that's not according to specifications because the specification would include steel bars. So that's really fraud. I
Criminal
mean,
negligence. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. The ombudsman should go after them.
Right. So good luck sa bagong ombudsman because of course the outgoing ombudsman is notorious for a lot of things, including his respect for the privacy and SALN of our politicals. But going back to this, Justice, now obviously I think people will say maging realistic tayo, Richard. Siyempre hindi nila investigate yung pwede maapektuhan ng kanilang sariling interes, mga ganon. But they can do it retrospectively, di ba? For instance, ang daming hearings na sa mga nangyayaring mga kalokohan sa dating administration, 'di ba? Meron ngang pati yung mga pinapatay na sabungan, 'di ba? Not to mention EJK, etc. Hindi kaya pwede at the very least magsimula tayo investigate muna natin kamusta yung mga flood control project ng panahon ni Digong, which at least is kalaban ng maraming tao diyan sa sa legislatura. I'm just trying to be politically realistic about this, 'di ba? And then sana if we investigate that, we do damage control assessment, etc., damage assessment, sorry, then maybe eventually it creates a normative structure or shadow para babawas yung kalokohan dito sa kalakaran na yan or allegedly.
Yeah, remember the flood control projects that turned out to be without steel bars. The pictures came out in the papers. I mean, the ombudsman should have investigated that right away to set an example, so that they will not do it again. We did not hear anything about it again. So if nothing happens, if they get away with it, so they will do it again.
Yeah, definitely. By the way, some of our folks and followers are saying, for instance, some good friend of ours joining from South Cotabato, sinasabi niya, dito mga tao talaga bantay sarado, chine-check nila, may awareness sa projects, kaya yung governor daw nila, transparent and all of that. So maybe there has to be at the LGU level also, di ba? This kind of a civil society effort na bantayan talaga yung mga proyekto because people could die if kung anong kalokohan ang gagawin nila sa mga flood control project na yan, not to mention yung pera na nawawala at kung saan napupunta. Before we transition to the next part of our discussion, Justice, nasaan na tayo doon sa mga kaso ng mga ni-raise nyo from last year pa, doon sa mga allegedly anomalous sa kasalukuyan, ay sa budget pala last year na pinasa, whether it's the PhilHealth issue, other issue. Hindi ako nagpa-ano masyado doon, nagpa-update recently. Uh, Kamusta naman yung mga ano natin dyan, Justice, yung Supreme Court case nyo and uh, well, basically your civil society activities on that front.
Well, yung PhilHealth, the oral arguments have been concluded, and it's now submitted for decision. The other one, the confidential funds of VP Sara that we questioned before the Supreme Court, uh, wala pa. They have not, the VP Sara already filed her comment, uh, and that is the status right now. So no oral arguments have been called, and we are waiting for the Supreme Court to call for all the arguments or to require us to submit a memorandum. No,
So nasa
so
pipeline, sorry,
yeah, yeah.
I'm using that term.
The other one is the General Appropriations Act of 2025. We question that also. Wala pang oral arguments yan. I think there will be oral arguments.
Pwede ba ma-consolidate yan, Justice, yung mga issues na yun kung medyo related ng Supreme Court?
Well, the confidential fund is separate. The PhilHealth is separate. That's because that's 2020, 2024. The 2025 is separate also.
Right. Justice, I want to also go back to this. So may statement lang ang si your former colleague, si former Chief Justice Bersamin about that if ever the warrant of arrest for Bato is issued, they're just gonna follow what they have followed back in March. How does that make sense in the context of Ano tong pinapasa ng mga legal luminaries natin, si Robin Hood at saka si Amy Marcos? Ano yung parang repatriation ng digong? Ano ba yung parang Rodrigo Duterte?
Yeah, they're asking the House and the Senate to pass a resolution that requesting the ICC, the Philippine government should request the ICC uh, to grant interim release to former President Duterte, and he can be released to the custody of the Philippine government. Dito siya, dadalhin siya dito in the meantime that there is no trial. But, every time there's a trial, he has to be brought back because that's the requirement of the Rome Statute. The accused must be present during the trial. The problem there is interim release per the cases decided already by the ICC can be granted. The interim release can be granted only subject to three conditions. Very important ito. First condition is that there must be an assurance uh, that foreign President Duterte will be brought back to the ICC at The Hague if there is a trial. So he must be returned. Uh, but we are not a party to the Rome Statute anymore, so we are under no obligation to return. No? So we have to be a party first. Babalik tayo. And second, while if he's returned here, and if there is no, we're not a member of ICC anymore. President Duterte can petition the Supreme Court that he should not be returned anymore. And if the Supreme Court will say yes, he should not be returned anymore, we will not be able to comply with the condition. And third, what if there's a new president? VP Sara is running for president, and of course she will not turn over her father. So that first condition cannot be complied with. There's another second condition that the if the interim release is granted, it will not result in the accused obstructing the trial. But if you bring President Duterte here for during the interim release, he has a lot of followers here who could threaten the witnesses and the families of the victims. So he could obstruct the trial in that sense. And the third condition is that he can be given interim release provided he does not commit the same offense while he's on interim release. But remember, when former President Duterte ran for mayor of Davao recently, he said, if I am elected as mayor of Davao, I will resume the drug war, the war on drugs. So he cannot comply with the third condition that he will not do the same thing again.
And
So I
logically,
doubt if his
right.
interim release will be granted. So that resolution, well, that's non-binding really. It will not bind the ICC, but the ICC will base its decision on these three conditions. If those three conditions can be satisfied.
Right. I mean, uh, we had Attorney Butoyan kanina dun sa isang show namin, Justice, and we were wondering if all of this interim release discussion, I mean, it just doesn't make sense for him to come back all the way to the Philippines if ever it will be somewhere close, maybe Belgium, maybe Netherlands, maybe dyan pa rin sa Hague, in a different facility. The idea of him coming all the way back to Philippines or Australia, etc., logistically doesn't make sense. But also it doesn't make sense, right? If sasabihin mo kidnapper ang ICC, tapos ni-release ka ng kidnapper, babalik ka ba sa kidnapper mo, Justice? Baka cardboard na naman gusto nila padala mamaya. Mamaya, hindi, ito na lang padala nyo doon. But Justice, ano bang chismis dyan kay Bato? Should Bato be worried? Without burning... I mean, we were right naman last year, Justice. Medyo napaga lang ng konti yung prediction natin. But we were right, right? I mean, should Bato
Yeah,
still
well,
be worried? Baka this is
well,
really about protecting Bato. Is
the
this really about
executive the,
Bato?
ex, the executive secretary Bersamin said that they will follow the same procedure. In other words, they will say that we have the option to prosecute him here or to turn him over to the ICC. So ganyan din gagawin nila, isasakay nila sa eroplano, send him to the
Wait, wait, just to get so he'll have to first go to Hong Kong, do some shopping, and then banat ICC, and then come back, and then kukunin siya sa aeroplane, ilalagay siya sa Villamor. I just want logistic, and then bubugbugin na naman nila yung mga police, I wonder, like when they say we'll do it the same way, I'm not sure that's what Bersamin meant, right? I don't think you want to go
No,
to
no.
the
Well, the situation, I don't think uh, the exact situation will be replicated. I think sinasabi niya, once there is a warrant of arrest from the ICC, well, we will do same thing. Arrest, put him on board a plane and bring him to the Hague.
But where do you find him if he's not going to Hong Kong going back? I mean,
Well, that
if he's in
assumes that he will
Davao or
not
in
be going
Senate,
to. Well, siguro naman he's not thinking of going to China
right?
for hindi naman siya malapit doon kay President Z. Hindi niya naman
Right.
sinabi, I love President Z.
Yeah, not enough. Purong I love Las Vegas. Iba kasing shopping area niya, hindi Hong Kong eh. So paano si Bato? So hindi na siya mag-travel ngayon kasi baka mahuli siya. Like, so what is the jurisprudence justice kung sa Senado lang siya, doon siya matulog, doon siya mag-drip-drip, doon sa office ni, di ba may vitamins sila dyan sa office ni Robin Padilla. What if he'll just, parang magkukun na siya dyan sa Senate? What's the jurisprudence? Pwede pa rin siya i-arrest sa loob ng
Well,
Senado?
while in session, he cannot be arrested, but the Senate is not always in session.
Unless siya, filibuster yung US style, yung nagsasalita ng matagal. He'll talk for 12 days straight, something like that.
Well, ang sessions naman ng Congress is Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Alam
Walang
na natin
session.
kailan mahuli si Bato. So, ayan na, mag-ingat ka sa ano. Well, I mean, Justice, so speaking of these two issues, two important issues we covered. Oh, by the way, I also want to add, did you see that news about si Kaufman daw allegedly transmitted message from Netanyahu regarding the Karim Khan warrant of arrest? Did you see that? Parang very connected tong tao na to. And Senator Trillanes was
Well,
alleging that he's doing PR and all din, na hindi lang talaga legal yung job niya.
Kaufman was formerly a prosecutor in Israel. He used to be a prosecutor in the Israeli government before he joined the ICC, before he practiced at the ICC. So he has a lot of contacts there.
Maraming kliyente rin. Mukhang ang dami niyang
Mm.
ginagawa. So kanina I was actually also asking Attorney Butoyan kung baka this whole interim release issue is just really for a way to say na may nagawa siya. Baka part lang yan sa DDS narrative. Parang keep up the hope. Ganun ba yan?
Well, of course, every time he moves, he will collect a legal fee. So probably he will be happy to do it to keep on filing all of these motions.
Kung ikaw si Sarah, pwede, wow, okay na yan, okay na, parang yung masahe. Hindi na kailangan, okay na ako, okay. Hindi, baka gusto mo dito sa likod din. Yung, alam mo yung mga ganon, binibenta ka ng kung ano-anong servisyo, ano. So, by the way, just on this issue, mahal ba talaga yung mga ganon abogado?
Yeah, because very few practice before the ICC.
Hmm.
So and yeah,
Malaking
it's
bayad
a
talaga, no?
specialized practice.
And pag hinar mo yung buong firm ni Fortune, mura lang ba yon, Justice?
Well, I don't know his rates, but this is a local lawyer, so I don't know really about the rates of the lawyers.
The reason I'm asking is that it looks like one family is hiring so many expensive lawyers, right? And people are wondering, saan galing yung pambayad nila? Kasi mukhang hindi naman ito ay crowdfunded, di ba? Wala naman silang fund me. Meron ba sila? Tatay Digong fund me, parang legal fee pro. Parang wala naman. Or kung meron lang, I'm curious how much they're raising to cover all of this. Curiosity. Now, speaking of President BBM, obviously is now in the United States of America, the greatest nation. Just as 3 days siya sa US, first ASEAN leader to visit Trump 2.0. What do you expect from this meeting, Justice Carpio? Are they going to talk about Imelda Marcos, their wonderful days in New York and Manhattan? Or do you think they're going to talk Turkey? Basically, ETCA bases, yung new storage and production facility, she prepare projects dito sa Subic, sa West Philippine Sea. What do you think should be expectation here? That the US could give us a reprieve on the tariff issue, maybe not 20, maybe 15 or 10%. What should BBM do, and what are your realistic expectations?
Well, I think basically the primary purpose is the tariff, because we were originally at 70%. Now we've been brought up to 20. I think we're trying to bring it down back to 17. Uh, I think that's the aim there. Uh, I don't know if we will, you know, the US did not budge when it came to Japan and South Korea. And Japan and South Korea pay a lot of, uh, pay for the expenses of the US troops stationed in Japan and South Korea. They pay huge amounts to the US government. But we don't pay anything to the U.S. government. So my thinking is that if Japan and South Korea cannot be given special treatment, it will be difficult for us to expect to be given a special treatment. So I don't expect it to be brought down to 17. Really, we might be stuck at 20%. But this is just temporary. From the way I look at it, the US is imposing tariff on the rest of the world, and the rest of the world among themselves. Like for example, uh, we are part of the free trade zone agreement in the Trans-Pacific, uh, and what will happen to the US is US will have tariffs against the world, but the rest of the world trading among themselves will have no tariff. So it's not sustainable. The US will lose out in the end. So I don't know uh, how the President Trump can sustain this when he charges everybody 20%, but the rest of the world will be trading tariff free among themselves. So
So this is
at the end
RC,
of the
RCEP,
day,
RCEP, right? Yeah.
yeah, RCEP. At the end of the day, the countries will first try to export among themselves, and the U.S. will get the last priority because of their tariff.
Right. Well, just to rewind slightly, if you see it from Trump's point of view, Japan and Korea, because they're massive export-oriented industries, nations, kumbaga parang ang argument is they have been abusing the US so much and contributing to its deindustrialization on a slightly smaller scale than what China's shock has been doing to America. So logically, couldn't the Philippines argue hindi naman tayo export-oriented industrialized country? Parang konti na nga lang export natin, surplus pa nga eh. So actually, we will be in a different position from Japan and Korea precisely because we don't have that massive exports to them. Now, of course, Vietnam is also paying that price because they're also serving as a secondary export hub for Chinese products, right? Can Marcos say we're not like any of these countries? Napaka-limited na nga yung trade na nga natin. The surplus pa nga kayo sa amin eh. So can't he make that argument? And the reason why I'm saying that might work, I'm not saying it will work, is remember, Trump administration is very aggressive on Japan, 5% of GDP spending, Taiwan 10% of GDP spending on defense, NATO 5%. Pero tayo, they never tell us you should spend this much or that much. They're very delicate with us. Parang they use the soft glove, soft touch with us, right? So hindi kaya we can use the same argument na kumbaga we're too small and we're not threat to your industries and in fact we need more of your help. Can we make it along those lines, Justice?
Yeah, we can say those things, but remember, Japan has a large investment in the U.S. and
And biggest
South
buyer
Korea.
US Treasury bills and the
Yeah,
biggest
and they are the biggest holder of treasury bills right now, bigger than China. So uh, each country has a different situation, but uh, we'll try to be present ourselves as unique. We have a unique relationship, but all these countries also have unique relationships, special relationships with the U.S. And Trump really doesn't care. He just he sent a form letter to everybody. If you read his
yung copy
letter on
paste.
tariffs, it's actually fill in the blanks.
Copy paste lang siya.
It's a form letter.
Ang iyong pangalan,
So, so
Carpio.
in other words, he didn't consider the situation of each country. It was just a shotgun approach.
Baka ito
Everybody
yung
got.
mga MAGA babies, yung mga 24 years old kid they got from somewhere to sulat mo nga to, tapos chinat-GPT na lang nila siguro yan. But just is going back to this, I mean, hindi kaya dapat dinala si Imelda Marcos doon? Maybe they can talk about their wonderful days, society days in Manhattan. Di ba, bibigyan kasi binili nga namin yung Manhattan building mo, allegedly, di umano. I mean, he could, I mean, don't you think they might charm each other a little bit, slightly here and there?
Well, I think Imelda, the foreign first lady, I think has not been seen lately, so I don't think she's in a position to travel now.
Hologram. Maybe they can do a hologram in the White House. Biglang lumitaw. Si Liza Araneta daw nasa US na ba or something. Anyway, justice ka kung saan mapunta tong usapan natin. My goodness. Ang sama talaga ng tao. No, I'm just trying to see ano kaya makakuha natin dito sa trip na to. Aside from like, please don't punish us too much with tariffs, di ba? In terms of defense deals, Justice, what are you hoping to come out of this trip? Because this is a 3-day trip. It's going to be meetings with Pentagon, not only in the White House, etc. What do you expect on the defense front? Maybe there's more hope on that front?
Well, yes, maybe we'll get some more military aid, but that will not really be much. Uh, I think the trip is just uh, to tell Trump don't push us too much because I think he has a base. Before it was 10% on everybody, now it's more or less 20%. But this is just temporary because at the end of the day, this is not sustainable. This is not sustainable. What will happen here is everybody will agree, okay, let's trade among ourselves, tariff free, and then let's deal with Trump. Whatever he wants, we'll put him last. So that will be the situation if Trump insists on all of these tariffs.
Obviously, he has his own domestic policy. Parang almost ideological na kay Trump to, no? Parang use tariff as basically as a weapon of national interest protection and all of that. Now, kahapon nag-tweet si Elbridge Colby, the US Undersecretary for Policy Planning at the Pentagon, sabi niya, our allies have an interest in the US re-strengthening its industrial manufacturing basis because it has implications for America's military capability, right? If kung mahina industries ng US, they don't have a strong military, they cannot build new ships, they cannot help allies. What is your sense? So, what is the ideal way by which parang I help you, help me, parang ganon. Is there a way we can help each other to both because the Philippines doesn't even have a manufacturing base to begin with. At least the US is a declining one. They just need to revive it.
Well, the free world has been buying a lot of arms from the U.S. and Canada has huge orders of the F-35, but because of the tariff war, Canada is thinking of buying from Europe. So I think this is self-inflicted wound on the part of the U.S. and uh, uh, the traditional buyers of arms from the U.S. Uh, are looking for to buy their military hardware outside of the U.S. because of these tariffs. I mean, they could get better terms from other countries. So I really don't know the rationale of this imposing a tariff on the rest of the world. And it's not only the military, the military industry of the U.S. Their farmers are suffering
Right.
because Brazil, all the rest of the world, Brazil and Canada are now selling soybeans, corn to China. And Egypt is buying from Brazil, India is buying from Brazil and Canada. So the American farmers are losing out.
So it's distorting trade patterns and destroying potential trade export destinations, right? For American farmers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's and even the oil. The U.S. Exports a lot of oil and gas, and the traditional buyers are shifting
Yeah.
because of this tariff war. So it's boomerang. It has boomerang on them, and if you don't
Right.
correct it right away, all these contracts are long term. It will take some time to turn it around again. So Trump cannot prolong this further because, like for example, China has entered into long-term contracts with Canada and Brazil for corn, for soybeans. And what happens now to the U.S. farmers in the meantime? All their soybeans and corn are rotting now.
Um, Justice, what some critics found even more alarming is using the tariffs to also impose a certain position on domestic situation. So you can think about the trial of Netanyahu and also Bolsonaro in Brazil. So, and obviously it
Yes,
backfired because in the case of Brazil, I mean, Lula really came out strong and fired back that you're not going to impose on us what we're going to do domestically with domestic issues. I mean, isn't that quite alarming that now tariff will be
very alarming.
yeah, I mean, you can imagine what if, let's say, Trump likes this person X in Philippines. Oy, parang gusto ko si Boy Kilay. Ay, sorry. Gusto ko si CHIZ. Huwag niyong ano yun si CHIZ. Otherwise, ibibigyan ko ng tatlong beses na tariff. I mean, like, that could go in some wild directions, right, Justice?
Yeah, it's and I think because under U.S. law, uh, the tariff should be based on for economic reasons. But Trump is using the tariff to secure a political uh, 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 action from Brazil. He wants the cases against Bolsonaro to be dropped. It's way out of this world. That's not trade anymore. So I think, and that will have an impact because the constitutionality of the action of Trump is now pending in the higher courts in the U.S. It will reach the U.S. Supreme Court, and that's precisely the issue. That this is an overreach. Trump is acting beyond his powers, and this is really beyond his powers. You cannot use tariff to force another country to drop a case against their own president. So this
Right.
is going to boomerang on Trump. I'm sure the those who are questioning the constitutionality of his uh, tariff policy will use this example.
Yun nga eh. Although the Supreme Court has been giving him a lot of power recently, right?
Yes, that's the other thing. Because we have a rightist Supreme Court in the U.S. now, but I think this one is too much. I mean, they cannot justify that kind of tariff that he's imposing a 50% tariff on Brazil unless Brazil withdraws the case against Bolsonaro. I mean, Brazil will never do that.
So kanina nagalit yung mga Pink kasi minention natin yung event niya na wala si ano. Tapos nagalit mga DDS kasi ngayon naman nagagalit yung mga MAGA sa atin, Justice Carpio. Bakit tayo daw ganito? Ang dami natin inaaway. Now, last part, para magalit naman ng mga loyalists sa atin, Justice Carpio, what do you expect and what do you want to see from the State of the Nation address next week when our wonderful president will be back in the country?
Well, first of all, I've been trying to convince our government that we should file a second arbitration case in the extended continental shelf. I hope he announces that yes, we are going to file, because that's we cannot lose in that arbitration. China cannot also win. China will lose because it's too far away from China, more than 350 nautical miles from Hainan, and you can claim only up to 350 nautical miles total. So the three countries, Malaysia, Vietnam, and the Philippines, will divide their overlapping claims, but China is out, and so the winners will be Vietnam, the Philippines, and Malaysia, but the only loser will be China. So, and this will more or less solidify our, we trying to look for a case where Vietnam, Malaysia, and the Philippines would be together, and this is it.
On
Uh,
the, yeah. What about on the
and uh, and I
issue?
hope that the president will announce this.
What about on the issue of ICC? Do you think the president, okay, I'll put it this way. Kaya ba ng presidente na wala siyang sasabihin na naman ulit sa ICC issue dahil yung mga Duterte basically are dictating the coordinates of the narrative, 'di ba? Na sila yung biktima, kawawa si Digong, yung matanda inaapi, tinaraydor sila sa Uniteam. So with the president not saying much on the ICC, I mean, I don't know if it's an ostrich strategy, let's just pretend it's not there. Isn't he actually giving the initiative to the other side to dictate the terms of this debate, if I can even call it that way?
Yes, because he said that I cannot intervene in the impeachment proceeding. Okay, we accept that, but the for us to rejoin the ICC is his discretion. He can do it. He can initiate it. Nobody can question that. So I hope he will also say that we will rejoin the ICC, and that will put the DDS majority in the coalition of CHIZ. They'll have a problem.
Oo.
So
Pero hindi na sila majority kasi
they
ang
will
dami na
oppose that.
ang
They
dami
will
na.
oppose that.
Pero ang laki na pala yung majority, so hindi na pala majority yung DTS 7. Parang 16 na ba sila or 17? So, I don't know, 7 pala is no longer majority. Ang laki pala ng ano, ang galing talaga ni Cheese and Ham. Talaga, ang dami nandun. Si Aimee na lang na wala doon at saka yung mga ano, Macho Boys and Risa. That's an interesting, if we were to believe this one. Now, Justice, what about on the issue of Pogos, anong development from last year? Because last year, thanks to you and a lot of people, Riza Ontiveros among others, there was a Pogo ban announcement. But we know that the game is evolving, right? Katulad ng pinag-usapan natin sa pork barrel. And then now, this Sabongero issue and this whole gambling crisis in the country. Kanina lang, we were talking with Ronald, and Ronald was saying na may mga kausap siya mga LGO leaders who are worrying about suicide cases increasing among mga kabataan na nag-engage sa gambling. Kasi frictionless, di ba? Boom, 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 boom. Dali maghiram. Tapos next thing you know, estudyante ka pa lang, lubog ka na sa utang ng 1 milyon. I mean, there's no way out of that, right? No one is gonna bail you out. So, nagiging social crisis na ito. What should the president say on the POGO issue, on the gambling issue? Because, you know, we know there's maraming kumikita dito. So, there's gonna be a lobbying for legal gambling daw. At sabi nga ni Sarah, di ba sabi ni Sarah, she's not against all types of gambling or something like that. Parang medyo weird. So, she's for certain types of... So, what should be the stance on that issue? May continuity ba ang POGO, Sabongero issue, and gambling? Or do you think these are multifaceted and different issues?
Well, we have a law already on gambling. Like, for example, casinos cannot be, you have to be 18 years old and above to enter a casino. So we have to have strict regulations who can engage in gambling. And but the problem is, how do you have to find a way to, how do you implement that if it is an online gambling? So unless they find a way to implement that, it's difficult to make that cut off. If you are a minor, you cannot engage in this activity. Because if you are an adult, well, it's difficult also to say that you cannot do it. But how do you now regulate online? That's the big problem.
GCash lang pwede. Di ba ang GCash may authorization? Like only verified accounts, I don't know, on GCash can do it. But GCash could also put limits on how much you can borrow within a day and spend para hindi ka mag-downward spiral. I mean, in theory, that should be possible, right?
Yeah, that has to be determined how you can really regulate it, because right now it's difficult to regulate it. If they can come out with a stricter regulation, maybe they should implement that. Because when it comes to casinos, the physically you can see the guy who enters, he cannot be a 7-year-old guy, you know. But how do you prevent that in online gaming?
Yeah, tsaka kung nasa casino ka, ang daming mga factors bago ka gumastos, 'di ba? Titingin ng masama yung bouncer sa'yo. O, gusto mo humiram, gusto mo mabugbog mamaya, 'di ba? Like, bibili ka pa ng chips, 'di ba? I mean, there are frictions eh. So they slow down crazy stuff. All the crazy stuff do happen in casinos. But I'm saying, like, yung online, ang dali, 'di ba? Yeah, hiram,
Yeah,
hiram, gastos.
yeah,
Yeah. Next thing you know, 1 milyon, lubog ka na sa utang.
yeah. And I recall that for casinos, they cannot operate within, let's say, 500 meters from a school. But for online, how do you stop that? Because you're using your cell phone.
Right, exactly.
So,
Uh, so Justice, what about the Pogo issue? Anong update since last year when we banned it? What happened on that front?
well, the same issue, because the POGOs are saying we do not operate in the Philippines, we operate in foreign markets, but and then they have to present proof that in that foreign market they are allowed to operate. In China, they cannot operate because gambling is totally banned in China. Now, in Malaysia, gambling is allowed, but if you are an operator, why will you base your your operations in the Philippines because you'll be paying two taxes. You'll be paying a tax to the Philippine government and to the Malaysian government because for you to operate in Malaysia, even if you are outside of Malaysia, but you're getting customers in Malaysia, you will be taxed in Malaysia also. So it doesn't make sense for you to have your headquarters in two places or to have offices in two places. So most of these POGOs who say that they are operating outside, they have clients in customers in Malaysia, they are really engaged in scamming here because there is no reason why they should operate here. It will double their expenses.
Baka diversified portfolio. Pero malaking revenue on gambling in general, no? Justice, so I think this is also going to be a serious fiscal issue for the government. So I hope the president makes the right thing. Last one, Justice. So overall, anong in-expect mo sa SONA and what you want to be there in the SONA, including on this issue, by the way, oh, of course, kanina we started with the line item issue, with pork barrel issue. Earlier this year, pinag-usapan natin ng ayuda issue, PhilHealth issue. What should the president do to reassure people that in the coming budget, that moving forward, that in his legacy years, we're moving in the right direction?
Well, at least in the 2026 proposed budget, they're returning the allocation to PhilHealth uh, because in the 2025 budget, they gave a zero allocation to PhilHealth. Now they're giving, I think, 52 billion. That's good. Uh, but I think we have not taken a look at the budget for education because in the 2025 budget,
Mas
education,
malaki yung DPWH.
yes, DPWH had a higher budgetary allocation, which is against the Constitution. So we have to examine because what they did in the 2025 budget, they said that the appropriation for the Philippine Military Academy, for the ILG Academy, to all of this uh, for TESDA, which is not really educational. This
Tama na
is
lang, kahit anong pwede pang education dyan, di ba?
yung pedicure, manicure, gardening, education.
Oo naman, education
Yun.
yan, Justice.
So, that's ano tawag diyan ano yan skills training na basic that's not
Vocational yan.
what we really want to educate our people now. So they included that budget of the TESDA. So tumaas, no? If you add that, the budget of education will be higher than DPWH. But so we have not yet looked at the present 2026 proposed budget kung ginawa na ulit if they repeated that same practice, no?
Justice, obviously, just to close this discussion, thank you so much again for spending time with us. I know medyo late, so talagang mahal na mahal ka namin just for always giving us your time and energy and insights. Um, Obviously, sunog na yung bridge niya with the DDS core, di ba? There's no way they're gonna forgive BBM. Tapos na yan. Like, the moment na si Digong ay, kung anong mangyari, i-repatriate siya, ilagay siya kung saan, Portugal, whatever. Tapos na yan eh. So, realistically, what is the best way for the president to win over as many Filipinos as possible? What should be the strategy for BBM to be at least a palatable president to the majority of the Filipinos? Medyo nag-improve naman yung satisfaction and trust ratings na, but it's nowhere close to where it should be, at least compared to his two immediate predecessors.
Well, I think the first thing he should do is to uh, remove all the pork in the in the General Appropriations Act in the budget because we know that the pork is the primary cause of corruption now in government. Tanggalin niya lahat ng mga pork. And I think the nation will applaud him. Just that, the nation will really applaud him.
That's a very parang mag-vegan na yung ano natin. On that very lofty goal, Justice Carvey, I don't know kung mag-stand yung coalition. Anyway, I don't want to be cynical, but kung ganun ka-cynical ang politika na kung sino-sino na lang pwede mo i-join majority minority, then I don't know, whatever. On that note, Justice Carpio, thank you so much for making us a bit more depressed, but also a little bit more hopeful. A couple of other things. Sana naman next week medyo pleasantly surprised tayo. Maraming salamat, Justice Carpio. Hopefully, we can have you in person ulit with Ronald Llamas and the rest of the gang. Hopefully, after SONA, July 31 or August 1, hopefully you're available in either of those days, Justice.
Sure, anytime.
Pag-usapan
Yeah,
natin. We'd love to have you back again, as
yeah.
always. Thank you so much, Justice. Have a good evening. Send my regards and talk to you soon po. God bless.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you to our viewers.
Salamat, sir.